The local players are back. What's up, Corey?
What's going on, man? How are you?
Well, I'm here. Did you get any sleep last night?
I did get sleep actually. I think because my adrenaline was up so high that when I crashed, it was definitely time for bed. So, how about yourself? And we both had the late games. So,
Yeah, my adrenaline, not so much. I will tell you, I did catch the season premiere, the new season of Archer in my post ULM Tito's fueled malaise, and I quite liked it. I think I did anyway, and so that we had that going on. Woke up wide awake at 6 a.m. because that's what old people do.
yep.
I think I broke my mask on the way into here, and I left my phone charger in the car. So really, it's been all shambles since that 6:30 kickoff at Malone Stadium on Saturday night.
Sometimes you just kind of sink into the to everything that's going on around you, huh?
But I will tell you one thing. We got some mail. I did receive this. Was sitting on my desk as I walked in today.
Oh,
This envelope
beautiful,
here, addressed to me from the Cotton Bowl.
beautiful,
So I thought we would open it today just to see what it is.
perfect.
And
I'm sure it's our credentials already.
oh, it is my renewal of my Football Writers Association of America membership. I was wondering where I did not realize that was coming from Dallas. But if you are a media member and listen to this, I highly encourage you to belong to such a prestigious association. So prestigious, in fact, they let me be a part of it. So we got that taken care of, and I also did some digging since that's why I'm in the office today. There were some things I had to check out and investigate. Search through some archives, and I'm going to show some things to some New Orleans fans. And I hope it's not too traumatic. It's nothing they haven't seen before. But after last night's performance, I felt the need to go and look at some things and pull up some key dates and jot down some numbers. Some of these will look familiar to you. There's that one, and
Man, how about that Sunbelt logo on that?
and this one. And, oh yeah, this one even you look at you got Wright Waters in there, the former Sun Belt commissioner. He spoke at the last media days we attended. I guess that was 2 years ago. And what I respect about this man is he still says "I dear." He
I
so many
dear.
ideas he wants to bring to the table, and then of course the one will live in infamy forever. Sorry, you Roland fans. I don't even have to say anything. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So why am I dredging up such horrific details? Well, I guess we should lead up front with the football game that I covered on Saturday night, and it was not good. It was there were moments and flashes again, kind of like at Army, even much more so. But in the end, Texas State leaves Old Malone Stadium, a 38-17 winner, snaps a 4-game losing streak to the Warhawks, their first win in Monroe since 2014. And at 0-2, there are problems. We knew there would be, even under the best of circumstances, just with the turnover from last year. But some things are lingering, particularly the cohesion on the offensive line, the inability to sustain blocks and get any kind of a measurable push at the line of scrimmage, which, in my opinion, I think has also affected Josh Johnson a little bit. Josh, as we know, was a 1,300-yard rusher last year, one of the best in the Sun Belt, arguably the best coming back at his position in this conference. And I think you have a situation where you've got a kid that's trying his heart out to make a play. And that pressing has kind of affected the running game as well, I think, and it's just not coming together. Now, there were some bright spots here we could hit. Colby Suits, first start at Malone Stadium at home as a sophomore, had a career night. I mean, he had to for them to have any semblance in this game. I mean, he threw the ball 53 times. And you ask anybody that's followed football in this state for a long time, and a Matt Viator offense with a quarterback throwing the ball 53 times is a rarity. But he finished 35 of 53, 377 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. And kind of to put that into context, ULM only ran the ball 26 times against Texas State. Texas State that gave up over 300 yards rushing to UTSA the previous week. So that was something none of us are really expecting. The defense got lit up early, as we have seen happen in the past, but they settled down, pitched a shutout in the second half, allowed only 80 yards. The one touchdown Texas State did score was on a 100-yard pick six as ULM was trying to score and do something late in the fourth quarter, and it was not to be. And, when we all do this, we look at schedules and kind of pencil in wins, losses, 50-50s, all that stuff going into the preseason. And this was one that we all had penciled in as a win. Of course, this was all pre-COVID. Another one was South Alabama. None of those looking like certainties now with the way that's going. And, you're in a situation now, if you're ULM, you got UTEP coming to town. Corey, you know a lot about UTEP. They are in the same division as Louisiana Tech. What can you tell me about UTEP? Just off the cuff.
Off the cuff, don't win too many games. Home,
They're bad.
Neutral site, Pee Wee League field that's right by the stadium. Doesn't matter where they play it. They rarely win. This
is a team that is possibly been the worst in all of FBS the past 3 years running. They have won exactly one game against an FBS opponent since 2018. That was an away game. They have collected one road win since 2018, and that road win was against Rice, and Rice is not much better.
I don't know if ESPN still does that bottom 10, rankings that they had been doing for quite a long time, but it was the norm to see both UTEP and Rice in that bottom 10 every single week. Yeah,
and it certainly would be this year. And I'm going to say this. I don't say it flippantly. Okay, this isn't a hot take. There's no scorching matter coming off of this. This is very matter of fact. Now, I'm not willing to go as far and to say that ULM will go over this year. But if they do not beat UTEP, then we have to start considering that possibility that this team will not win a game this year. And again, that is not a set in stone statement. That is not something I believe is a concrete thing, but it's just something. Ye of the good ship Warhawk, you need to start thinking about if they cannot beat UTEP, because I don't know if you follow the rest of the Sun Belt Conference. I don't want to say everybody's good, but everybody's capable of winning each week. There's not gimme games. Georgia State should have beat Louisiana Lafayette. Billy Napier's old nemesis, the clock, almost got him. Yeah. But the Cajuns, were able to find a way to win that game. You look at Troy. Troy dismantled Middle Tennessee, maybe worse than Army did. We just talked about three teams that ULM will be playing, if you count the Raging Cajuns. And so there are some problems right now. And I think the most glaring outside of the offensive line is probably not just, Josh Johnson hasn't been able to get going, but neither has Josh Peterson. He ended up with, I think, had about 4 catches in that game yesterday. But, neither of those guys have scored a touchdown yet. Yeah. And they've had a hard time getting them the ball. I know it's easy to blame the coach because that's what fans want to do. It's always the coach's fault despite extenuating circumstances, which really need to look at those. Those are a big deal. Teams, it's not like they weren't trying to get Josh Peterson the ball. They were moving him around, putting him in different spots, putting him in motion. But teams are game planning for that now. They know that when it comes to ULM, there's 2 guys you have to stop, and those are the Joshes, and that's in the game plan. So that's why it's been a lot harder to get them going. Or some signs of that maybe some other guys can help carry some of that load. Jevin Frett, JUCO transfer, is a bigger wideout, a guy I felt like had the best chance to be that guy. They need to just go up and get the football. They hadn't had one of those in a while. Not since Marcus Green and R.J. Turner got out of here. And he caught his first touchdown pass. Chandler Whitfield from Zachary. And I stood on that sideline of the Super Bowl and watched him tear West Monroe apart in that state championship game. Caught his first touchdown pass. So those are 2 guys maybe you can build some positivity afterward. But I'll be quite honest with you, if they don't win next Saturday, I don't know how this thing's going to go.
Well, Adam, I very vividly remember you and I talking after the SMU Texas State game a couple of weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
and we talked about what we saw out of their defense. And their defense, even at the time, a couple of weeks ago, had some COVID-19 issues and wasn't rolling out their complete starting 11. And I think you and I both agree, if I remember correctly, that I mean, what we saw out of Texas State was, I mean, it was the best they had looked in a while, you know, and you kind of mentioned, like, you know, that Texas State comes to Malone Stadium in a couple of weeks. That could be a very interesting game. And I think it kind of what we initially talked about, it kind of played itself out in a way.
It did. And, you know, it was it's just a weird game. And I've been through a lot of weird ones. I don't think I've been through weird ones yet this season. With this football team, but honestly, they just need to win a football game. They need to win a football game next week, even if it's not decisively. Just win the game and take from it what you can, and keep moving forward with that. But on a brighter note, Corey.
Well, before we get into Louisiana Tech, let me ask you this. I mean, so you were able to actually, you're inside a football stadium, you were inside a press box, you were in person at a football game. First one for either one of us during the pandemic era. So kind of touch on a little bit of, like, you know, kind of what the atmosphere was like maybe around the game before and obviously after the game. I mean, I'm not sure how much you were able to talk to maybe some of the players and obviously V and whatnot, but I mean, obviously starting the season out, you know, 0-2. I mean, what's the mood in the locker room, you feel like?
Frustration. And you could tell that without even being in the locker room or in person, because, you know, we're doing post-game interviews digitally. We've got this whole virtual thing going on. But just talking to the guys, I mean, it's frustration. They did not expect to be 0-2, even with everything they've been through. And, you know, they've rolled with everything that's been thrown their way, really, since all of this started. I mean, going all the way back to, you know, canceling spring and everything that's happened since. And they've done their part. They've done everything they've been asked to do, and they're not being rewarded for those efforts right now. And that is incredibly frustrating for this football team, as it would be for anyone. And I think they're feeling it. It's palpable. And really all they can do is, you know, it's cliche, but it's the truth. You just got to find a way to get better.
Yeah.
And you think, you know, with some of the same issues cropping up every week, it can be refined over time, and it's going to have to be. I mean, there's no question about that. And you just got to find a way to put your best foot forward. And I know they're frustrated, and I'm sure there's frustration on the staff too. But you got to keep plugging away, because the last thing you need is for a bunch of these guys to check out, and that's when things will get really, really, really bad. And let me be clear, I don't think we're approaching that yet. So you just got to keep plugging away. Now, as far as the atmosphere, of course, it was limited. There were some folks that still came out and did their private gatherings, because we don't tailgate. And those were pretty much under control. They did a pretty good job. Everybody was responsible, I think, for the most part, and that was good to see. Got little partitions going in the press box. They looked homemade too. I'm proud of whoever built it. I don't know if it's somebody at the ULM physical plant, so shout out to y'all. We had some plexiglass partitions on either side of us to make sure there was no spittle, snot, because, you know, you're sitting in a press box with funky dudes. God knows what's going to happen. They took care of us. I covered a game in a mask. That was weird, but made it work. And just going to have to get used to that. And hopefully I really did not break mine like I fear I did. So gonna try to make that work. So we'll see.
I had to ask you that because I need to know what I'm getting myself into for this coming weekend when Houston Baptist comes into Ruston. So.
Well, I've got a feeling whatever happens at Tech will be a little bit more organized, because that's usually just kind of the standard when we're comparing two schools and how things work. But I'm sure you'll be fine. I'm sure Malcolm will have a nice spread for you. I don't know if they're going to feed you, because, I mean, food, long lines, not good either. We had a box. We had a box lunch.
Yes.
We had a box lunch at Malone. It was quite good. I don't know where they got it from. Ciabatta bread, had flour on it and everything. I was impressed.
So nukes.
It wasn't nukes, but whatever it was, I applaud it. I will take it. They have 2 more games left to go in the next 2 weeks on this 3-game homestand, and I'm for it. So
nice. Well, good deal. Yeah, so let's kind of dive into the craziness that was the rivalry in Dixie last night.
They tricked you, didn't they?
They tricked me. They hit me with a late flea flicker. They looked buried with about 16 minutes left in the ball game, and
your story was almost done in the fourth quarter, wasn't it?
I had to scrap about 33% of it. Yes, It's not completely done, but what I had written up to that point, about a third of it had to have been scrapped and had to be reworked. So, but that happens more times than not, right? We always try to get ahead of the curve, and when we feel like we're in a good spot, the game usually takes a really big dramatic turn, and we have to basically throw everything in the trash and start all over again. But yeah, I mean, it was less than 2 minutes to go, and Southern Miss has got the ball, and they're up by 17. And I mean, it just, all things considered, everything that Louisiana Tech had been going through for the last week and a half, I mean, I think everyone had thought at that point that, I mean, well, this game's over, because the offense for Southern Miss at that time was in a pretty good groove. And, the big defensive end, Milton Williams, breaks through the line, bats a ball up in the air that Jack Abraham tried to dump off to a running back for a screen. And I can't remember who it was off the top of my head.
Just say it was Taylor Grubbs. Pretty good chance.
No, it wasn't Tyler Grubbs.
Tyler, my bad. We even getting the kid's name wrong.
No, it wasn't Tyler. It was another defensive lineman. He caught the ball and intercepted it and ran it back a little piece. They had it in plus territory, and I think it was the very next play or that series, Louisiana Tech goes down and scores a touchdown, and you could kind of feel at that point that the momentum had kind of shifted a little bit, and but obviously, let's kind of talk about what a lot of people have been clamoring about for weeks now. They want to know who the starting quarterback is going to be, and we knew coming into this weekend that both Aaron Allen and Luke Anthony were going to play. Just from how heated the competition between them has been all fall camp. They were basically neck and neck through camp, and then you throw in the postponement of a game and having to not practice for 4 straight days due to COVID-19, due to the outbreak within the team. It was a foregone conclusion that Skip was going to run both of them out there, and we also kind of knew that it didn't really matter which guy was going to take the first snap of the game, which it was Aaron Allen. He took the first snap, and he came out of the gate and looked great. First series was 5 for 6 passing, 50 yards, had a 5. He capped his first series of the night with a 5-yard touchdown pass to Griffin Hebert. And I thought even in that drive, I thought he demonstrated a lot of the growth he had made from last year. Obviously he was put in a tough spot last year, having to relieve Jamar Smith for those 2 games, both being on the road at Marshall on a Friday night and then coming back and then at Birmingham the following Saturday. Those are, in the Conference USA landscape, those are 2 of the tougher places to win. And then when you're asking a redshirt freshman quarterback to, all right, buddy, go get them, it's usually not going to go well. But he was, even in the moments where he had to scramble, I thought he, last year, I thought he would have been more inclined to tuck and run the moment he felt the pressure in the pocket. But last night he demonstrated, getting out of the pocket, but staying behind the line of scrimmage and keeping his eyes upfield, see if he could find somebody that was working their way open. So he was much more poised, on that first drive. And then after that, it was kind of the struggles kind of hit a little bit for him. He played the next 2 series after that. And then, and then Skip, recycled in Luke Anthony for his first drives. And it was weird how Aaron started great. Luke, his first series did not look good. You could have even made the assumption that, at halftime, it's like, oh, well, Aaron Allen might be our guy, although they were down 13-10 at halftime. Aaron Allen was doing some things in the first half that I think was much more impressive at that point than what Luke had done. And then in the second half, Aaron's first pass in the second half in the third quarter is an interception. It was an ill-advised throw, and threw it almost right into the breadbasket of a Southern Miss defender, and Southern Miss gets a touchdown off of that. So you can't have that. So they were down 10 points at that point, and I think Luke came in the series right after that and moved the ball down the field a little bit. And then, like I said, it was after that tip ball. Deshaun Hall was who intercepted that pass.
Okay.
Milton Williams tipped it up. Deshaun Hall caught it, ran it back a little piece. But that play was kind of the turning point in the game. And then also, I think kind of at the same time, Luke Anthony was kind of settling into the flow of the game. Obviously his first significant snaps against another FBS school. Had been an Abilene Christian. I know they play a couple of FBS schools a year, but to me, what I saw last night, I think Luke's the guy. I think, obviously with the game on the line, they were down 6 with a little over 5 minutes to go. Luke was in at quarterback at the time. And obviously from a head coach standpoint, you want your quarterback to go out there and win the game. And, he was able to help Louisiana Tech down the field. They kind of leaned on the run game for the majority of that last drive. They brought in Greg Gardner, who hadn't had a single carry all night long until that final series. He ends up, I think, carried the ball 6 times and ended up with 40 yards on that last drive to get them pretty close. And then Luke made a couple of big throws, and then obviously at the end, scrambled out of the pocket and threw up a high ball for Abear to jump up and get. And Abear just made, a super athletic play to not only go up and get it, but to get his foot down inbounds, while getting hit, by the Southern Miss safety. So, I think there's a lot to be encouraged about from Louisiana Tech's performance last night. And to me, almost kind of opposite of what's going on with ULM. I thought Louisiana Tech showed that they've got a lot of really good depth on their offensive line. Starting left tackle Willie Allen did not play, was not available last night. And so Skip shuffled some things up front, moved the LSU transfer Donovan Campbell from his right guard spot over to left tackle, and then moved up backup center. Abraham Delphin moved him from backup center up to starting right guard. And kind of like I said, they started fast and looked really good out the gate. Offensive line was able to pass protect really well early on. And I thought they did have some struggles with that kind of as the game goes on, because I think Southern Miss made some pretty good adjustments as the first half went along and kind of dialed up more and more pressure, and they kind of struggled to identify that a little bit. But while they started to struggle a little bit with pass protect, their blocking in the run game got better. And in the second half, Louisiana Tech, that's how they're able to get back in the game. They leaned on the run game a little more as they were still shuffling their quarterbacks in and out and trying to figure out, who's the hot hand, who we're going to ride for the rest of this night. And, that was one of the big things that stuck out to me. I think there's a lot of depth on the offensive line, and I think that's something to be really encouraged with, for Louisiana Tech. And then two, you were missing two of your 3 starting linebackers, and then you're having to basically throw in 2 freshmen in the middle of the defense there. And true freshman, I believe Holy Cross graduate, Tyler Grubbs, hell of a game, 16 tackles. First time getting a sniff of the college football world for himself, and he goes out and leads the team in tackles with 16. I mean, for a kid that's 18, 19 years old, to even expect him to do something like that was probably not in Skip Holtz nor David Blackwell's mind, the defensive coordinator. But he goes out there and he does it. He was all over the field. He made plays, and they needed somebody like him to step up, because there were a lot of struggles defensively last night. I thought, Cedric Woods, our boy, our Carroll product, got the start last night at corner. And
Carroll High, home of the turnover bone, my favorite of the turnover props.
Turnover bone, baby. Yeah, he, God love him. Some freshmen rise to the occasion in that first start of their collegiate career, and I think Cedric kind of got lost a little bit. They spelled him a little bit early in the second half with Roger Calhoun at the cornerback spot. But at the same time, you have to take this into account too. Southern Miss has probably got one of the better wide receivers in Conference USA in Tim Jones. I mean, this guy was smoking everybody that was lined up, in front of him last night. So it was very tall order to ask Cedric to cover this guy and to be effective against him, because he's really good. So defensive line was showed flashes. I thought that, Milton, as the game went on, got better and better. You could tell that, it was a season opening game for one of their star defensive players. But I think as the game went on, he really got to a groove, and obviously he made that big play for him that kind of sparked the whole comeback. So, again, I think there's a lot to be discouraged about. I do think that, over the next couple of weeks, growth on defense is going to have to be a key for Louisiana Tech. And really, honestly, I know it's an FCS opponent coming into the Joe this coming weekend, but, this Bailey, excuse me if I mispronounce his last name, but Bailey Zappi, the quarterback at Houston Baptist, he lit up North Texas's defense. He lit up Texas defense. He's almost thrown for 1,000 yards already. He's already got 7 passing touchdowns on the year through 2 games. I know they lost both of those games, but the guy can throw it. He can spin it. So that's kind of going to be the big matchup leading into this weekend is how much more improvement is Louisiana Tech secondary gonna make in this next week, and what do they expect out of Houston Baptist as far as the pass game goes. So it's gonna be an interesting game.
Yeah, that was going to be my question for you. Is just with Houston Baptist coming up, and they're capable of scoring points. They move the football quite well, but does it seem like this is a good opponent for Tech coming off a big win at Southern Miss? Getting more guys back, trying to get into a groove, and it kind of like how you would see a Power 5 go up against a G5. This is a chance for us to hopefully, if we're doing what we're supposed to do, we get a lead early, we build on it, and we start working some guys in and mix and match some combinations, figure out what we got as we try to go forward and try to win Conference USA.
Yeah, and you touched on it there, and I think that is probably the biggest point is, will Mackie Carabin and will Trey Baldwin, the 2 starting linebackers, will they be back and available? I think if they are, getting both of those guys back is going to be huge on the defensive side of the ball because, normally Trey, Trey plays the Mike linebacker spot. He's the guy that makes the calls. So, usually when you have your defensive field general have to sit, it's kind of tough for Alan Walker, a freshman to come in and try to assume that role. So, it's going to be big. It's going to be a good measuring stick. Like I said, I mean, I know a lot of people will look at Houston Baptist and think, oh, well, that's an FCS school. They're only playing games right now just to make money because their conference isn't playing games. And
so is everybody else, even the ones whose conferences are playing games.
Yeah. So, and I get that mindset, but, I don't think this is a team to be taken lightly. And to your point, I mean, this will be good exercise, especially for Louisiana Tech secondary as we get into the meat of this conference schedule that they're going to have. They're going to be having Marshall come in and play. Marshall looked really good. They knocked off App State.
Marshall beat the bell cow.
They did,
and it was a tight game. I did catch some of the highlights of said game, and Marshall found. Because here's App, okay? App in a nutshell. I haven't watched these guys play through, and this will be the 3rd App coach I've seen. They're like a damn boa constrictor, okay? They just get on you, and you make a mistake, and they clinch on you, and they clinch on you. So they just got you. And there's nothing you can do about it. They feed off of everything. They don't make mistakes. They do what they do. Marshall got App to make some mistakes, particularly a big turnover. Tight end fumbled the ball, would have been a touchdown, would have made that thing a 3-point game. So that's an impressive win. Because not only did you do that, you did it playing the style of ball that App plays.
Yeah. No, I watched the majority of that Marshall App State game, and I was very impressed. I mean, their quarterback, the Wells kid, Grant Wells, I believe is his name. He's a freshman. I mean, this kid is probably the front runner for at least newcomer of the year in Conference USA, if not, trying to set up for trying to win the overall offensive MVP for the league. I mean, this kid's at a very young age has come in and he's almost kind of, changed the program around, because they lost, I believe his name was Isaiah Green, who started for quarterback for them last year. Isaiah transferred out. So, you had a big question at that position coming into this year. And, for a really young kid to come in and really seize the moment, I know it's been really big for Marshall. And when they come to Louisiana Tech here in a few weeks, that's going to be a game that I think is probably really going to set the tone for the remainder of the year, because if you let Marshall come down and come into your place and obviously play the way that they're capable of playing, it could be a long night, and it could be a long season after that. So that's going to have to be a game that Louisiana Tech needs to circle many times on their calendar right now.
Yeah, well, how do you see Conference USA this year? Because we all went into this thing, it seemed pretty wide open. And when you look at West, is it still UAB at the top and then fill in from there?
You know, I think so. That's, it's so wild because, yeah, I know UAB lost to Miami, and, everyone makes the joke that, oh, well, Miami couldn't even score against Louisiana Tech. Well, obviously, I mean, with
Miami didn't care to score against Louisiana Tech. If you think they wanted to be in Shreveport, Louisiana a couple of days after Christmas, then God bless you.
Right. So, yeah, it was two completely different animals, and obviously two different seasons too. But, Tyler Johnston has gone down. I think he's out indefinitely with, I believe, a shoulder injury, which their UAB's quarterback. So, and we're all kind of see it, I've been watching a little NFL today, and there's been star players all over the place going down with significant injuries. And I think a lot of college football programs are dealing with that too. So obviously with Johnston going down at quarterback for UAB, that opens things super wide open, especially on the Western Division. I still think Southern Miss has got a shot at it. If they can clean up some things on defense and find their rhythm offensively, I do think Scotty Walden, with all his theatrics, his almost professional wrestling.
Well, and that was one thing I wondered too, just from seeing some of that. Like, was he actually running the game, or was he just doing the over-caffeinated strength coach routine?
I think he was doing both, which is really impressive. I think he was doing both. He was running up and down the sideline. Which I don't know if I've ever really seen a head coach do this before, but he was the one hyping up the crowd. Like he was the one asking for the crowd.
Well, not one that's actually, good at, the job that they're there to do, which is actually, managing of the football game and, running it from the sideline. But
well, hey man, look, it's third down. The crowd needs to be loud right now. Okay. I don't really know what the defensive call is, but as long as the crowd's loud, that's all.
Can we get Scotty Walden a house mic for like down there at the Rock? I'm sure my man David Cohen, a graduate of, well, I guess he was technically a GA or intern, I can't remember, but he's a product of the ULM Sports Information Office down there doing his thing in Hattiesburg. I'm sure David can figure out a way to make that work, and we can have some mic'd up at the Rock. I think that'd be good for. I think that'd be good for everybody involved.
Yeah, I'm sure once like ESPN's able to bring back like the mic'd up segments and have their crew go out to practice and spend time with the Southern Miss is probably going to be the team that they go to first, because they probably want to see this guy in practice, because what I saw on the TV of him last night was interesting. But I do think that I do, again, that's why I said I still think Southern Miss has a shot to get the West, because I do think that I think a lot of his kids are really buying into to kind of that. I don't need coffee, because I believe the quote was, I don't drink coffee, I wake up fired up, or something like that, was the quote that they said during the telecast last night. So I think a lot of his kids are kind of buying into that persona and buying into what that's going to mean for their program. And that's why I think.
Well, as long as it works for them, they need something. So, if that's what it's got to be, so be it. Okay, one more Conference USA related question.
Okay.
Is Middle Tennessee the next job in CUSA that comes open?
Yes.
That's
I
what I'm thinking too.
I say, yeah. Well, because there's been so much buzz around the O'Hara kid, at quarterback, and you can't lose to Troy in that manner.
Well, it's more in that manner, right? Because it's a Troy team that can score, but very much took a step back defensively last year from what they usually are. After Vic Koenig went with Neil Brown to West Virginia, they kind of lost that identity of what they were. Because that's what's funny about Troy. Everybody thinks Neil Brown being a product of air raid tree. They played defense and ran the football. That's how they beat you. And they're back to throwing it a lot, and it's paying dividends for them. And I don't know if Middle Tennessee's bad. Are they this bad? We'll see. But, yeah, it did not inspire confidence going forward down there in Murfreesboro. And just so people understand, they know I am from around that way. And I'll go ahead and tell you, yeah, I mean, I guess you fire Rick Stockstill, whatever. But Rick's a good coach, and Rick has done a very good job, a long-term good job at a place where no one cares. They don't have any money. They're trying to get some facilities, and it's not. And they've been trying to do that for years. So Middle Tennessee, you may think, let's go, let's pull the trigger, time for some new blood. Not the kind of job that it may appear from the outside looking in.
Yeah, it's not gonna have people trying to shove their way through the door, right? Like those videos that you see from people trying to buy TVs on Black Friday or something, you know.
No, it's not that type of gig. But anyway, digressing. We're gonna watch some high school football this week. I mean, not games. I mean, scrimmages. We're gonna watch practice.
We're talking about practice.
We're gonna watch practice, but
not a game. Practice.
High school football, nonetheless. Which is going to be kind of cool, if anything, like just to get out and see it and get our bearings about us a little bit, because you know, with all this going on, I mean, you kind of have an idea of who's going to be good. I mean, it's usually rather obvious, you know, in our market who it starts with.
It's the usual suspects, you know.
But you know, there could be some surprises this year. We'll see. But I'm looking forward to getting out and looking at some of those. I think I'm going to hit up Neville and Wassman. I'm going to try to catch Washita and Franklin Parish. See how that looks. And then, you know, we've got some other ones we haven't touched on. Yeah, Sterlington Mangum being one of them. Carolyn Richwood going to go at it, even though they are going to play in district. Union Parish and the Woe, West Washita, for those that are uninitiated. So, yeah, we've got a few of those coming back. You know, looking at high school this year, kind of what are some of your thoughts just on what we've got this year and where do you think this is going to go?
Well, I hope my first thought is for the kids' sake. I hope we're able to do this, and I hope we're able to get it in. I hope we're at least able to get to the playoffs and then get to some form of a championship format for them, especially the seniors. You know, they've you know, worked their entire lives up to this point to have this moment, and you just hope that, you know, any outbreaks don't happen and something that could, you know, derail or curb, you know, anyone's season. So that's the main thing. And obviously, I mean, probably everyone that'll watch this knows that, you know, I spend most of my Friday nights at it's Friday night. You were in Rebel Stadium. You know, they lost two key guys on the defensive side of the ball for them, as well as special teams. They lost the LSU punter commit and starting linebacker Peyton Todd in the middle of the defense, and they've lost their starting junior cornerback Rayshawn Pleasant, both to Peyton's for sure out for the year. Last I spoke with Rayshawn, he said he's likely done for the year, but they are, you know, just getting more scans and just making sure that he's not going to be able to play this year. So they were already going to be young on the defensive side of the ball, and now they've just gotten younger, and they're probably going to have to ask. And there's probably going to be a lot of schools that do this, Adam, and that's probably so I say this to lead into probably my next thing that I'm curious about during high school football season is. You know, I spoke with Jerry, and he said, you know, we're probably going to have to ask more kids than we ever have, or at least than we've had in very recent memory, to play both ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's where we're headed to, and because if it's going to happen at West Monroe with over 2,000 kids, then yeah, there's going to be a trickle down. There's no doubt about that. And I'm trying to think of somebody might help me with that. I'm trying to think of the last one at West Monroe that played both ways. I mean, it's been a while. Maybe DJ Banks. I mean, we're talking 8, 9, 10 years.
Yeah, I was trying to think if there might have been
outside of an emergency situation, like did Bolden, wasn't he like the emergency safety or something?
Yeah, like, you know, if they knew a team was gonna, you know, throw a Hail Mary, you know, you put your guys with the best hands, you know, out there on defense. So, yeah. Yeah, I was trying to think if there've been any kids since I've moved out this way and spent some time with them, and I can't really remember one. There might have been somebody on the offensive and defensive lines that may have done it, but I can't recall any names off the top of my head, but
Well,
I mean, that's, okay. So here's the thing about that, right? That could be very concerning is that, I mean, these schools aren't getting their normal, preseason camps. They're not getting the normal amount of, contact during practice, and they've been more focused on, conditioning and weightlifting. I mean, are these, I mean, out of the gate, if you're asking 6 of your kids to play offense and defense, I mean, are their bodies conditioned to, to play 70 snaps?
not right away. I mean, we may see more cramping and stuff than we're accustomed to this year. I feel like they'll be in shape, though. I mean, some of the coaches I've talked to, I mean, that's one thing they've said from the beginning is regardless of skill level or, technique or things like that, they feel confident their guys are going to be in shape. Because, I mean, that's all they can do is run. For a while, it was run. I mean, you could work some in the weight room, but some weren't even chancing that. So it was, we're going to get on this grass, we're going to get on this track and run. So, I mean, I think we'll have some guys that are in shape. But, I mean, just from the football side of it, the cramping and all that comes with it. And a lot of that also is a hydration thing, which coaches can't really control because so much of that has to be done on on their own when they're not in the building and everything, carrying a jug around with them and all that stuff. But so we'll see. But to your point about two-way guys, I mean, I guess that kind of speaking of, the team I spend most of my Friday nights with, the Neville Tigers, they're down one of theirs that they think can come in that was going to be a dual threat guy for them. And, there's still a little ray of hope that maybe depending on how deep this goes in the playoffs, they could get him back is Zeb Bruttle. Zeb, as you know, is going into junior year. He's already committed to play baseball at LSU. So assuming he doesn't get drafted, he may not even make it there.
Right.
And he messed up his elbow playing travel ball this summer. And this was a guy that, he was going to play linebacker. He was going to play some slot receiver, some H-back, tight end stuff. He's going to do a lot for them. I mean, you recall last year that Bastrop game, him and Will Campbell. I mean, I won't say they single-handedly won it because you don't do that in football, but they made the plays to win that game, to beat Bastrop. That was a real tight one. And Will, even though he will be spending his Saturday afternoons after his high school career playing left tackle, and depending on how that goes, maybe spending his Sundays playing left tackle. But, that's another dude. I could see him on the defensive line this year. That's been discussed there in yonder Charlie Brown field house. And they could, ask him to put forth a series or two on defense this year too. We'll see. That's gonna be one to watch coming in. And, I'm just curious to see how this goes. I mean, especially when you look at it from, our defending state champions, OCS and Oak Grove. How is Oak Grove going to replace that wall? I mean, it was so unfair. God, it was so unfair watching teams try to block Kean Caldwell and Big Bert Hale. And, it's not going to be as easy as it was where you could say, okay, nobody's going to block these two and we'll just fill it around this. I mean, our boy Gregor and him will have to do some coaching this year.
He's not just going to walk into the locker room pregame and say, all right, boys, just another Friday night. Hope you're all ready to play.
Yeah, you're 285, you're 315. Nobody's moving you, so let's go.
The last Louisiana Tech practice that was open and I was able to get to, I will say a little Bert Hale update. They recruited him and signed him to play offensive line. The last practice, he was playing a little interior defensive line. And that was probably that was a numbers thing, but they're giving him a look. So
that's an interesting thought when it's there because for some of the coaches I talked to, I thought he was destined for the offensive line when he got to college, because that's where, I know Auburn was interested in some other SEC schools that didn't pull the trigger. I think Ole Miss was another one, but he projected out as as a guard for them, and that's where they liked him. So
yeah,
maybe they'll keep him there. Maybe they saw our boy running with that pick at the Dome last year, putting on those moves in the open field. Maybe might be my favorite play I've ever witnessed in all my years going to the Dome was Big Bert and the fat guy touchdown. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I was going to say, especially ever since I've moved out here and taken over this beat and been covering high schools 4 years out here. Burt's interception return for a touchdown in the state championship game is far and away my favorite play that I've seen in the 4 years that I've been here. It was just an amazing. You would think that because we've been going down for I guess I've been down to the Superdome for the last 3 years, right, for state championships, and you would think from a crowd pop standpoint that maybe the loudest crowd roar I've heard in my 3 years has maybe been from the West Monroe game or a Sterlington game or one of those big schools. No, the loudest pop I've heard from a crowd in a dome, at least for myself so far, was when Burt returned that interception back for a touchdown. The entire town of Oak Grove was in the Superdome, and everybody got super loud in that moment. It was an unforgettable moment.
Now, see, now you're learning. So you just figured out the secret of the Superdome is those big schools. Those aren't the rowdiest ones. Now you get Oak Grove down there. You get Mangum down there. I'm not kidding. The entire town of Mangum was there. No exaggeration. No one was there. They were all there. They were loud. They were banging on stuff. They were doing what those fine men and women of one of my favorite spots to go watch a football game do. So you have finally figured out how this works in this state when it comes to the Prep Classic. But anyway, so I guess we should wrap this up. So let's tell the folks what you got working this week.
Yeah, we're diving headfirst into our high school season preview covers this week. We're gonna have district outlooks coming out for every one of our classifications. I will be handling 5A. I will be handling Class 1A. Lots of good schools. I think there's lots of good storylines just in the two classifications that I'm handling. I think it's being able to visit with these coaches, right, is kind of just what just usually sparks my excitement for the upcoming high school season. Always getting to spend time with them, talking about who they think might be that kid that's under the radar and who could be an impact player for them that maybe not a whole lot of people know about. And so we've got high school stuff coming out, obviously, still on the Louisiana Tech beat. They haven't fired me yet. So, we'll be catching up with Skip on Tuesday for his weekly presser. We'll be getting ready for Houston Baptist to come into Ruston on Saturday, first home game. Like you touched on with ULM last week, kind of maybe try to dive into more the logistical side of, how do you host a football game during the COVID-19 area, what it looks like, what fans can expect. So we're going to have a lot of stuff coming this week. What about yourself, man?
Well, I'm going to have some ULM. We've got our press conference Monday morning with Matt Viator. Will be the fallout, the postmortem from Texas State one final time, and then getting ready for these minors. And then I will have my offerings of the prep persuasion too. I'm going to handle the district outlooks for Class 4A, Class 3A, and Class 2A. So a busy slate. Going to get back and talk to these coaches, and we'll get out to some scrimmages and have some more fun content for you because it's finally here. I mean, it's damn near October, but I mean it's all going at once. But I'll tell you what, dude, I was fired up. Like, got up yesterday morning. We had a little crisp air. It was a little crisp snap in the air.
Oh yeah, man!
I got out and was running in the morning as I want to do, and it was just a good day. So
yeah, it felt like fall Saturdays in the South. It felt like a college football fall Saturday in the South. It was a beautiful day. I enjoyed it. Had the lady friend over and she watched some football with me. She doesn't like football, but she did it anyway. So it's a pretty good sign, right?
And speaking of lady friends, mine, the one who has agreed to be my wife, there's only one of those. She's starting to kind of learn the locals, I guess you could call it, on Twitter. Some of these folks we interact with all the time. It's been quite entertaining to watch. She's getting a hang of it since she decided to join Twitter herself in March, which I don't remember what day it was she joined. It was one of the more memorable days on Twitter. So she jumped into a whole separate world that she did not know exists and was probably quite ashamed that she has agreed to take my last name after seeing my Twitter behavior. But hey, that's that is just kind of what she signed up for, I guess, and God bless her for doing so.
Special one there.
All right, but we'll be back next week with another edition of the Local Players. If you got any questions, comments, concerns, you can bring those to us at thenewstarsports@gmail.com. We will read those over the air once they are received, and maybe we can make that a thing. But we'll have this up for you sometime Monday. So enjoy, and we will see you all again next week.
Thank you, guys.